Project management certifications. This is a topic that I'll guess probably most of the questions there. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management expert. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How I do that in practice can vary from providing training, one-on-one mentoring, consulting, because in the end, if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you. Before I forget, this content here is part of the warm-up for the Project Management Summit. Project Management Summit, it's an event, it's a free event I created to help you to further develop your project management skills. So there I'm going to give you some classes with exercise to help you to progress in your skills in your career. Everything is free. The only thing you need to do is click in the link here and subscribe. And also don't forget to like and share this video so it can reach more people and more people can learn about project management. But also if you do that, you help my channel and I'm going to appreciate a lot that. So project management certifications. This is a topic that I get a lot of questions on that one. Common questions I get. Which certification should I go for? Which certification should I get to start? What certification is more valuable? What certification can land me a job? So I'm going to talk about those certifications and so you can understand, you can have a better view there. And of course, then you can decide where you're going to move with your career there. So first of all, when you talk about certifications, it's important that you understand there is a lot of certifications in the market. For example, there's the Project Management Institute here. Project Management Institute, it's the biggest project management institution around the world and also the most known one. Project Management Institute also has several certifications. From waterfall, from general project management to risk management to schedule management, PMO, and so on. But you also have Prince 2. Prince 2 started in the UK. It was created by the UK government there. That's why it's quite big there. It's known around the world, mainly in the countries that they are part of the Commonwealth or that at some point they had a strong connection with the United Kingdom there. So it's also a well-known certification. So also when you look for Prince 2, they have Prince 2 Foundation, they have Prince 2 Practitioner, they have Prince 2 Agile Foundation, Prince 2 Agile Practitioner, and so on. So those organizations here likely are the biggest one. PMI is the biggest one, the most known. Second one you go for Prince 2, but also you have IPMA and you have Association for Project Management. If you're looking into more agile types of framework, you have Scrum Organization, you have Scrum Alliance, and you have Kanban University, you have SAFe, and you have much more than that. So what what does it mean? There's probably a lot of different certifications. To give you a flavor, this is the certifications that PMI offers: CAPM, PMI ACP, DSSM, DSSM, PMP, PMI, PBA, DAC, and this is just few of them because they have certifications for portfolio, they have certifications for program. To give you an idea, there's also certifications for example, for a Scrum Master. They have Professional Scrum Master 1, they have Professional Scrum Master 2, they have Professional Scrum Master 3, Professional Scrum Product Owner 1, 2, and 3, Professional Scrum with Kanban, Professional Agile Leadership, and they have even more. So what do you need to know about those certifications? So depending where you are in your career, a certification makes sense because it's important for you to understand that if you already have working with project management, the certifications, of course, will start to enhance your profile. So having a certification, it starts to make sense when you are already working with that, when you start to have more experience with that. Because in the end, I see a lot of people trying to get certifications without having working experience, thinking that a certification will give you a job, a certification will get you a job, and in reality, that's not what's happening there. So a certification makes sense if you have experience, then you study and you have a certification that helps to enhance your profile. But what if you don't have any experience with that? Then a certification in this case might not make a lot of sense if you want to start work with project management. Because I talk with a lot of people and I've heard it before. Yeah, but everybody needs a certification. So let me first show you some data about this. This is numbers updated from PMI. If you enter the PMI website here, they say that there's about 1.5 million PMP certifications around the world, with top countries being China, United States, and Canada there. And if you look around it, you're going to find out that Prince 2 Professional, there's over 1 million certifications. So if you combine both, that those are the two biggest ones, you are about 2.5 million certifications. If we add there some safety, some margin, because there's also other certifications, although they have much less than those two, let's round out for 3 million. Well, there's an estimation that the project managers working around the world is 16.5 million. Why I'm showing you this data? Well, if there are around 3 million certifications around the world and there's 16.5 million project managers, you already can know that less than 20% of the project managers, they have a certification there. But what if people working with project management? Working with project management includes project coordinators, it includes project support officer, it includes project management officers, maybe include project controller, project admin, assistant project managers, and a lot of other positions there. There's data estimations from PMI that shows that there's around 90 million people working with project management worldwide. Meaning that if 3 million people have a certification, we are talking about less than 4% of all people working with project management that have a certification. What can you conclude from this data here? That, by the way, this update is wrong. I updated this yesterday, so it's 5 December 24. What you can conclude from this data here? Basically, what you can conclude is most of people working with project management, they don't have a certification. This is data. I'm going to talk about my experience. I've never met a project manager that started his or her career with a certification, meaning that say, I got a certification and then I moved to the project management. Usually is the other way around. Well, if you are in most of cases, and again I've never met one, people start to work with project management, they get interest, they start to gain experience, and then they say, okay, now it makes sense for my career to have a certification so I can further develop my skills, and of course I can enhance my profile. So in this case, makes sense. So what you show what I'm telling you by my experience, I started to work with project management since in 2009. I've worked in Brazil, in the US, in Europe, and I work with global teams. I've worked in different companies in different industries. So my experience, it's a sample from what's going there, but I'm also showing you data. And if you still do not believe me, I'm going to look for positions for you to see if there's requirement of a certification or not. So just put here my LinkedIn profile. You can see here project coordinator United States. Why project coordinator? Because usually it's an entry level position. And I'm just looking for random positions here. So basic qualifications. You look here, there is no certification requirement. And if you look even for preferred qualifications here, there's no certification requirement. Let's take a look at another one. I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. What we'll be doing, blah, 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 blah. What do you have? 3 experience, blah, 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 experience, project management software, proficiency, blah, blah, blah. Again, look here, no project management certification. And look for the date, this is December of 2024. Let's look in another place, project coordinator in the UK. First position, again, LinkedIn, country, finding it as a project coordinator, blah, blah, blah. You are looking for that. Full passion. What do you have here? No certification requirement. So let's look for another one. And I did not look for those positions up front, by the way, just to be this one desirable, which is not a hard requirement, but a starting person. I'm going to talk more about PMP today also. If you don't have any experience, you cannot get PMP. So this position does not make sense. And this is interesting that that's pop up because what's also important for you to know. A lot of times people writing down the position, writing the job description, they do not understand project management, even if it's the area manager there. I've seen positions that they requested, for example, they have had the same similar thing, desired to have a PMP. And when we talk with the hiring manager, he will say, "Oh, you have the PMI." So he was not the hiring manager himself. He was not even understanding what's the difference between PMI and PMP. PMI is Project Management Institute, so it's an institution, and PMP is a specific certification, Project Management Professional. And I'm going to talk about more about PMP. So let's look for another position here. Knowledge, education, preferred attributes. You see here, no certification. And why I'm showing you to that? So I'm showing you data that proves that most of people working, the vast majority of people working with project management and as a project manager, they don't have a certification. So if they don't have a certification, they start to work with project management without a certification. That's a logical conclusion that you can take. I'm telling you by my experience, I've never seen a project manager that started his or her career with a certification, and I'm showing to you entry-level positions where there's no required certification. So for the question that I get very often, which certification do I need to have to start with project management? The answer very straightforward. None. You don't need a certification to start to work with project management. But a certification is nice. Yes, a certification is nice. And I talk with people, someone told me, I want to have an edge. Well, I can tell you, you're not going to have an edge if everybody has a certification. And in some situations, I see people, I have a master in project management. Well, if you already have a master in project management, what an entry level certification can do for you is the same thing that your master should have done for you, proving that you studied project management. And that's it. Again, a certification, it's not a bad thing. I have my certifications myself. It makes sense, but you need to combine, if you want to have enhance your profile, you are going to need to combine certifications with study and experience. That's what's going to enhance your profile. And I've seen people with a lot of certifications because they start to get it and it's nice, of course, but they cannot find a job. And some positions they've been told say, "Oh, you are overqualified for our entry level position because they had the PMP and all other certifications." So be careful with that. But if you are looking for a certification, which one do I recommend? From all those organizations here, which one I personally like the most? PMI, Project Management Institute, because it's the biggest project management institution around the world. I already mentioned that. From PMI, from all those certifications they have, I only recommend for you PMP. That's the Project Management Professional. Why? Because PMP is the most known certification worldwide, and there's 1.5 million certifications there. That's so PMP can really enhance your CV. A lot of people talk about the CAPM. CAPM, does it help? It's not going to hurt you to have CAPM, but most of people don't know even what CAPM is in the real world. If you go to companies, I've never seen CAPM in a job description, for example. So keep that in mind. And but say, but I'm in the UK. Yes. So if you look for job descriptions, most of case they consider PMP and Prince 2 practitioner at the same level or exchangeable. So if you have what they say in the job description, we can try to find one. They say, so let me do it in the UK because then there's higher chance that we are going to see the CAPM. What do we do? What they do? They usually write down as equivalent. So here you go. You standards as from PMI or Prince 2 or equivalent because they, in general they consider PMP and Prince 2 as equivalent. So of course they say PMI, APM, and other institutions make sense. So In real world, you're never going to have this question. So if you are working mainly in the United Kingdom there, in the UK, if you have PMP and Prince2, they'll be considered equivalent because both are well known. Oh, if you are in the US, for example, or Canada, Prince2 will be much less known than PMP. And if you are in the rest of the world, sometimes people who know PMP, they are not going to know Prince2. That's why I always recommend PMI and PMP. But I mentioned to you what are the requirements for the PMP. So there's basically two sets of requirements depending on your background. If you don't have a degree, you need to have 5 years of working experience with project management, plus 35 hours of general project management education. For example, what we are going to do in the Project Management Summit, it will count as part of those 35 hours that you need. So if you complete the Project Management Summit, you are going to get a certificate, and the number of hours that we are going to do there will count as part of the 35 hours that you have. And if you have a bachelor degree, then 36 months, 3 years of experience, and also the same 35 hours of training. That's why I mentioned if you don't have working experience, you don't have experience with project management, you cannot get PMP certified. So be aware of that. And that's another reason why starting with a certification does not make sense, because the most valuable certification that really can provide you an edge for you, you're not going to be able to get. So keep that in mind. So my preference is always PMI, most known PMI, PMP, most known certification around the world. That's also what I have. Of course, if you're in the UK, you want to take Prince2, also will be considered equivalent. Uh, but if you're looking for an Agile certification, I do recommend from Scrum Organization, or let me rephrase that. Scrum Organization and Scrum Alliance, both are very good organizations. Both are from the creators of Scrum, the people that wrote down the Scrum guide there. I like more the Scrum organization because they have an open format, meaning that if you learn Scrum, if you think you have a good knowledge, you apply for the certification, you need to pass the exam, and you get it. For the Scrum Alliance, usually you always need to buy a training together with that one. And usually, of course, because those trainings they are more they are expensive. So you buy a training and certification, it will be much more expensive than if you buy just the certification there, just to buy the exam for the certification. So my personal preference is the Scrum organization. That's the certifications I also have. That's what I decided. Depending on what you're doing there, I think it makes sense to have a professional Scrum Master and a professional Scrum Product Owner, because so you prove that you understand you are a good professional, have a good knowledge to be a Scrum Master, and you have a good knowledge also to be a Product Owner there. So I have both, plus the Agile leadership. But if you have PSM1 and PSPO1, that's enough for you to start. Here's a very important point. If you're looking for a position, for example, as a Scrum Master, then a certification makes sense, even if you don't have experience. But what would be the certification? Professional Scrum Master would be enough to get an entry-level Scrum Master position there. What about the others? Well, I also, if you want to learn Kanban, Kanban University makes sense. I also have certifications from Kanban University. Kanban is very interesting because it can be used in any type of industry, because it's about managing the workflow there. And if you're interested in that, I have more videos about Kanban on my YouTube channel. They are free, just watch it and you're going to learn more. Here, it's not the purpose of this content here, but Kanban, if you're looking for Kanban, they have Kanban management professional, they have Kanban coach, they have Kanban practitioner, they have a lot of different certifications there. So in general, I recommend those top three here. But what if I go for the other one? That's fine. That's up to you. For me, that's also what I do for my own career. I have certification from those three here. Scrum Alliance or Scrum Organization is equivalent. PMI and Prince2 it's equivalent. IPM and AAPM you are going to have, of course. I believe I don't have it. I believe they also have good certifications there. I believe that their trainings are good and so on. But the problem is, if depending on the certification that you have here, people will not know that. So if you want to facilitate your life, because a recruiter and a HR person, a lot of times they do not understand a lot of things from project management. And if they see a job description like that one, talking about, for example, PMP, and this one is not talking about PMP. Let's see if we can find something. And here you see senior project manager positions, and even here I don't see the certification requirement there. So another very good reason. Let's see Amazon. Capex, blah blah blah, best practice, preferred qualification. Even here you don't see a certification there, so another very good reason for you to understand Siemens. Siemens usually they require a certification. APMA professional qualification or PM at Siemens. So be aware of that. We can continue to look for the certifications here, and here we are looking for senior project manager positions. And so far, I haven't been able to find a position really with a hard requirement for a certification. Background, here's again, you see background, no certification. Lead project manager, let's see if in that one we are a bit lucky. Though. No certification again. So let me move for the US, see if in the US I'm a bit luckier to find someone asking for a certification. Senior project manager. Who you are. Ah, here you go. And here's very interesting. PMI, PMP certification desired but not required. To prove again, you don't need a certification. So how you approach this? You need to understand where you are in your career. Say, I want to change for project management. For project management, what you need to do it? If you have zero experience, well, start to apply for entry-level positions. So it's much more important that you focus in developing your CV. You try to gain experience like you can work as a volunteer, for example, Project Management Institute. Project Management Institute, they have chapters all over the world. You can try to get a volunteer position there to gain some experience, to help you to build your network, to help you to build your knowledge. That's a much better way to try to get in than just going for a certification. If you are already working, you have working experience, you want to transition to project management, I would recommend you to focus on develop your transferable skills. Transferable skills are basically things that you learn in any type of position that you can fully transfer to other position, like how to use Excel, Microsoft Excel. That's a transferable skill because that's not industry related. If you work with finance, if you work with business management, if you work with project management, if you need to use Excel, that's a fully transferable skill. Other transferable skills that you have there: communication, problem solving, teamwork, leadership. All those things are transferable skills that you can use here. So focus in highlighting and working your CV to highlight those transferable skills there. That's much more useful than going for a certification. You say, but I have time and I have the money. I also want to invest in a certification. Good. Go ahead. I'm not saying not doing that. I'm just saying that that should not be your only focus. Because talking with people, I've seen people even, are you applying for project management positions? And here I talk with somebody. Basically, he told me I have a master in project management and I'm looking for a job. And say, okay, are you applying for positions? And then he told me, no, I'm not applying for positions because I want to get a certification first. If you're doing that, you're only delaying you to get a job. Because let's assume that you go and get a certification. Then you're going to still do the same thing. You still need to work on your CV. You still need to look for your network. And just because you have a certification, that will not help you. Or let me rephrase that. That will not get you a position. A certification will not get you a position there. So instead of focusing in looking for all those types of certifications, make sure that you start to work in your CV, look for positions, apply for the positions, and in parallel, of course, study project management, develop your network, make connections on LinkedIn that make sense. This is the kind of stuff that's going to help you. Remember that your profile will only make sense, the certifications, if they are backed up by your experience. Only certifications and no experience will not help you. And if you say, oh, now I'm already working with project management, say I'm a project coordinator, I have 2 or 3 years already working, so go for PMP. Don't go for CMPM, does not make sense. If you can apply for PMP, go for PMP. Don't go for CPM. I have, for example, I have a mentee, and she was working. She has some experience as a project coordinator. She has some experience as a project management support officer, and she was saying, "I want to go for a certification, and I'm going for CAPM." And I asked her, "Why?" Because you have the experience that you can fulfill the PMP requirements. I just showed you the 3 years of work experience. In her case, she has a bachelor here. CAPM is also a costly certification. Let's see how much CAPM costs here. So let's take a look. Oh, this is in Brazilian reais. Huh? Because right now I'm in Brazil. Yeah, probably I need to close the VPN. But a certification here in Brazilian reais, that means that will cost you 200, 300, between 200 and $300. If you're not a member, if you are a member. If you're not a member, it will cost you a bit more. And how much does PMP cost? Yes, PMP is more expensive, for sure. So here we are talking about between $400 and $500. But if you go for CMPM, you pay half of price of PMP. You see here, let me open another tab here, PMI. You pay half of the cost of the PMP, but you don't get the value for that. Because as I mentioned, most people, they don't know the CMPI. So you're going to do a extensive test. You see here 150 questions and basically 3 hours. For PMP, you have 180 questions and a bit longer exam. Why? Because the questions are more challenging. That's why, of course, you need more time to solve it. But that's to showcase does not make sense. If you're going to take a long exam, 150 questions, 3 hours exam, here you have 180, you have more time, but here you're talking about 4 hours exam, more or less. So it will be very time consuming to go for CMPA anyway. Of course, PMP is a bit more challenging, so it's more difficult. You need to prepare a bit more. But here you get the real value. So in the case what I was discussing with my main PSA, here you're going to get the value. Here nobody is going to know your certification. So you're going to invest money, you're going to put a lot of work, and your output, the value that you gain there, will be very small compared with PMP. So gladly I convinced her to go for the PMP, and right now she's preparing for the PMP. But keep those things in mind. All those things, they are quite important. Certifications in the end, they are nice. They can help you to develop your skills. They can help you to develop your knowledge. They can help you to enhance your CV. But you need to go into the right thing. Another type of question that I see, for example, people say, I want to work as a Scrum Master and I want to go for a PMP. Not that PMP is going to be a bad thing for you, but if you want to go for work as a Scrum Master, most of case the certifications they want to see is the professional Scrum Master certification or an equivalent one. So the PMP might not be very handy for you. If you and I seen people saying, I want to work in, I have a civil engineering background and I want to work with construction project manager. And someone told me, yeah, then I'm taking the professional Scrum Master because professional Scrum Master is cheaper and of course easier to get than the PMP. Then say, but if you work with construction, get a professional Scrum Master certification will not help you because Scrum is not used or it's not used very often in construction. And if you look for a construction position, very likely they are going to require a PMP and they are not going to care if you have a Scrum Master or not. So certifications also make sense depending on the type of industry, depending on the type of position. Again, so that's why it's important that you have a goal, you understand where you are before you decide for the certification that you want to have. If you just go for everything, saying, I'm going to go for certifications without thinking where I want to go with my career, might be that you're going to put a lot of money and you're not going to get anything from that. I mean, I know people that they have, I don't know, 5 or 6 different certifications from PMP to professional Scrum Master, but they cannot find a job. And at some point, because they have so many certifications, they cannot even go for entry level position because people tell them now you're overqualified for a position. So be careful with that. Keep in mind that, of course, people might tell you, yeah, everybody has a certification, you need a certification, and that's why I started here showing you the data that you can have. And if you do not believe me, go for LinkedIn, look for different positions, see what kind of requirements that you're going to have there. And we look together here for a bunch of positions here, even for our senior project managers. Let's look for another one here. And here you see project manager certifications as PMP, Prince2, or Agile are preferred but not mandatory. And again, even for senior project manager positions, what do you think it's why do you think it's mandatory for entry level positions? So be aware of that. Make sure that instead of focusing all your energy in certifications, you understand that it's much more valuable that you work in your CV to have a nice CV, that you build a network, that you grow your network, than you just focus in certifications without that. So again, don't forget that this is content here is part of the project management summit free event. Only thing that you need to do there is subscribe. If you have specific questions about your situation with certification, you should go any specific advice for you. Of course, I cannot talk about all the situations here because that's kind of impossible. Reach out, ask your questions here in the comment. Go for my Instagram, send me a direct message, ask in the Q&A box. If in the end your goal is to develop your project management skills and work with project management, my goal is to support you. Thank you and see you around. Bye.